Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Behind Erasmus, the show where we talk about people. You never guess it. Behind Erasmus. Today I have my great friend here, Lucas. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, my name is Lucas. I'm 20 years old, and that pains me to say it because I turned 20 like last week, and I had been participating in Erasmus project since I was 18.
Okay, great. And since you're talking about when you started doing Erasmus, what was your first project?
I was in Estonia. It was a youth exchange about offline activities.
Okay, and how did you get this idea for going?
This idea. So since I was a child, I dreaming of Estonia because it's the land of the hobbits and everything else because of the forests and blah blah blah. And it's a developed country, and I come from Brazil, so every developed country sounds better in my mind than my country from origin. So I spoke a lot about Estonian culture and music. I listened to a lot of curly and some Estonian rock songs. And a friend of mine called Pedro, uh, he texted me and he was like, "Do you want to go to Estonia free?" And then I said to him, "Yeah, I would really like that." And then he sent me the project, and I read about the project and the theme. It was very amazing, and I learned about Erasmus, and I got to go. But I need to be honest and say that the first reason for me to go it was because it was Estonia, and because it was a possibility to go.
Okay. But did you had an idea beforehand of what Erasmus was or what a youth exchange was?
Not a youth exchange, but in my mind, Erasmus was an academic choice. That you can go 6 months to another university to do a period or a little class there. And that's only the only Erasmus that was in my head before.
Okay. And before that, you had any like preconceived ideas of what it was, how people were that went in this?
I mean, I met an Italian girl that she was from Erasmus and she came here, and the only thing that she was doing was like she was giving classes and receiving classes in the university. She was doing political science, I think. Um, my first imagination was that it was very fun and it was very amazing. I really liked much of their culture, so I think the most preconceived thing that I thought it was more fun than work. I think
And and it was.
it was, yes, it was, but still a lot of work that I didn't see coming.
Okay. And before you after you finished this first project, what made you want to do more projects?
Lucky. When I finished this project, it was the best week of my life until then. And every project after that one was topping the week before, and it was very fun. Maybe not the last one, but I mean, when I got home, Anna, that was the organizer of my Estonian like, organization. Uh,
Sure.
yeah, I think that's okay to say. And she said to me that it was like very fun and it was very nice to have me there. And I was like, oh my God, I really want to do this again. So I went to the site of the organization that I volunteer in, that's Check-in Association here from Portugal. Um, she then told me I saw a project actually about cultural identity and political identity in Germany. Uh, and that it was your first project. Yeah,
Spoiler.
spoilers. But I just candidated myself to go because I really thought it was fun. And like a week later, they called me, and they actually called me. It was not like a text. I don't know how they got my number, but they called me, and they were like saying, "Oh, we really like you to be the team leader for this project." And then was, I got to go.
Okay, it's good that you're touching on this part. How was it for you to be like a team leader in your second project?
It was very frightening, you know, because in my first project, we had a very big problem. because when we were flying to Estonia, we had to do 2 connection flights. And the first one was to Austria, yes, and it was by TAP, the Portuguese Airlines. And as everyone that flew in TAP knows, it got delayed, and it did
Yeah,
got delayed. And the thing it was that I couldn't get the other flight, so I lost the flight, and I was like me and the team leader alone in Austria, not knowing how to go to Estonia.
that at least was a good country. So
At least it was
I
a good
say,
country, yes. I have been worse, but we fixed it. Like, I mean, the team leader fixed it, and I was like looking at her and was like, "Oh my God, she's so amazing!" Because I would have frozen, if it was my first time. So I was very scared. But I think that when I got there and I realized that I had my own room, joking. Then I realized how much fun was to be to coordinate people and to help making that project so amazing. It was a very, very nice experience. But I was scared.
okay. And that I really know you well. And for those who don't know, you're really like the type of person who really likes to read books and sit down and study hard for hours and hours straight. That really schoolboy, the teacher's little pet. And for you, how it was to be in contact with this like new type of education?
I'm being honest to you. I'm gonna say that in the first project that I was like, I'm not gonna learn anything because I'm a very formal education boy, like you said it. And I really like to books and everything else. But when I got to go there, I think that was my first experience that was out of this world. We had to run into the forest because it was offline activities. And I'm very sedentary. I don't do a lot of exercise. I don't. I don't do exercise at all, actually. And I was very scared when I learned about that. And I was paired with a Czech girl, and this Czech girl was very competitive. And she was like looking at me in my eyes, and she said to me, "We're gonna win this." And I looked back at her and I said, "We are not. We're not gonna win this." And then she pushed me by the arm, and I ran the fastest that I could in my entire life. And when that was over, we won, and it was amazing.
Okay.
Yes, yes. 14 minutes running. Can you believe it?
Totally got carried by her, but okay.
No, no, come on. I did my part. But the point was that I learned a lot about myself that day that I didn't. I have like a closed door uh, of ignorance and a little bit of arrogance against this kind of activities, this kind of informal ones. And that one broke my heart and broke all my conceptions. And that was the time that I thought, oh my God, I can do this. I can kind of do anything. And in the next day, we had to formulate a website for the project. And then I learned how to don't try to create websites. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm learning. You know?
So wait, in your youth exchange about being offline, you learn how to make an online website.
Okay, so that was not the task, but the task was for we to create a way to market market the project that we had been to, and mine team's way. And Rodrigo was in my team, and you know him, uh, was about doing a website, and I did it. And I mean, I know that it's very controversial because I have been in in another training course called Be Digital, and I think I learned more about online world in the offline project. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, well, good. Let's move on then, since you're talking about
okay.
training courses.
Oh,
And then for you, what was like the biggest difference between a youth exchange and a training course?
uh, I mean, my training course was very packed with a lot of stuff to do. But I mean, I know the difference because I do work in this area for some time, but it's not going to have that much difference because my second project that I was a team leader, it was in Germany, you know that, and it was a project that was 6 to 7. Then it was very hard working project, and it was very technical actually in the photography lessons and and in the political lessons and everything else, it was very hard. I actually think that it was a training course in my heart. So I'm not gonna say that I went to the training course and was like, oh my God. But the big difference for me, it's of course the time that you put in it, because the projects were longer, I mean by hours per day, not in days in general. And the second thing is the people, because I mean, the training course that I went to, it was 21 years minimum, and I'm not 21. Yes. And so it was like little boy Lucas with 19, and the youngest person besides me were like an Italian girl that was like 25. So for me, that was the big difference, was just see like a more grown-up person that enjoyed Erasmus, and it was very amazing.
Okay. But for you, do you think that training courses are better than youth exchanges in terms of learning, since you're such a big learner?
Um, I think depends on the topic and depends on the country, because you have some countries that are more regularly disciplinary, and there are more countries that are more calm down.
Oh, so like depending on the country's culture, the way that they give the classes, the
Yes,
sessions are different.
I had 2 youth exchanges in German. I hadn't had the last youth exchange because of Miss Coronavirus, but but it was, both projects are very heavily stuff with all of the I mean, all different activities and activities through the entire day, throughout the entire day. Yes, that word is very hard for me. But yes, and I think it depends on the culture and the country. But I'm going to say in general, generally saying, I think that my training course that I did only did one against 4 youth exchanges taught me a lot more in more general skills.
Oh, well, that's good to know. And doing your, I think it was your fourth project, the one in Cyprus.
It was,
It was right?
it
Yeah.
was, it was.
You were a team leader, but you also helped organize some activities. And
Yes.
how was it to you to organize the
It
activity?
was an APV, right?
Maybe, yes.
It was APV. I was not an organizer, but I helped do the
Yeah, helped
plans, do the
organizing.
chronogram. It was very fun to me. I mean, it was not very fun. Okay, I'm gonna get there. I did a lot of good ideas from what I think, and the project was like beautiful. I come back home and I was very fond of it. And when it happened, oh my God, sorry, organizers did not deliver it very well, and it was a lot of confusion. But I'm going to say that in the creative process, I was very happy with what I did, and I was very proud, and it was amazing experience. I got out of there like thinking I could run the world. It's a very fun experience, and it's a very humbling
Okay,
to do that.
so you kind of had like a, even you can say, fast transition from being like having this prejudice against non-formal education to going to a project, being a team leader in a project, then helping create activities and
Yes,
organizing a project. And
yes.
for you, what was like the biggest difficulty during this whole process?
During the whole process, reimburse in the end of the project. No, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Erasmus is a very well executed and with good bureaucracy. I don't think I had any difficulties being a team leader. I was very well helped by my organization and the organizations that I went to. I'm gonna say that maybe my biggest difficulty was there's nothing related to the Erasmus project itself, but it was in Germany with the guy with the Nazi symbolism, because
Okay.
yeah, for all of you who are listening, we have a participant that was Portuguese, and I was a team leader back then, and he drew up n- swastika.
Yeah.
Is that how it's saying in English as well?
Yeah.
Okay, a swastika uh, in a photograph in Germany. So it was very confusing because there were organizers that wanted to call the police, and there were others that didn't. And I was like there making like a advocacy of the hell, of the devil Yes, I was the. And you
Okay.
understand it.
Yeah. And how did you deal with the situation? What you guys ended up doing?
We end up deciding not to call the police, hopefully, and mm, the organizer of the German organization told me to just speak with the person, and everything went very right after that.
Okay. So during all the projects that you were a team leader, you can say that was like this was the biggest challenge that you had to deal with this situation, or have you had anything uh, harder to deal with?
No, that this was the hardest by far because this was my first adversity. I mean, I had the one in Cyprus, but I said to you that it was very bad organized, and there was one day that we were supposed to go to the city center with blinds on and not speaking English, and it was very hard because the bus was not passing. And when it was, there was a lot of people, and like I was a team leader with a Greek guy, other Greek team leader, and a Romanian one, and us three decided what we were supposed to do. So we were against the organizers and we decided by ourselves. So that was very,
Yeah, and I think it's good that the team leaders have like this power to if the organization is not like doing everything that they should or managing everything well, they can kind of take over or help steer them
yes.
to a better way. And for you being so young, have you ever felt like any how can I put this, any pressure or any other people, not taking you seriously because of your age?
Um, I'm gonna say that one of the, for me, I do anthropology in university, and for me, Erasmus projects are very anthropological in the sense that they do present a lot of liberty and a lot of equality. So I'm gonna say that everyone that I met was very liberal and they didn't judge by age. I'm gonna say otherwise, actually, that was only once that I had any problem controlling a group, and it was in Germany because people didn't listen to me. And I think it had to do with my age because everyone else besides me had a master degree or they
Or it
were
was me?
20 plus. Yeah, I was not trying to be mean.
Okay. And about being a team leader, you were the team leader how many times?
um, three,
You
three,
were three times a team leader for the
kind of
Port,
four.
kind of four times the team leader of the Portuguese team.
Yes,
And you have double nationality. You are Brazilian and Portuguese,
yes,
but you have one of the most Brazilian accents ever. And
I do. Yes.
and did you ever found out that feel that this was a problem, being a team leader from kind of other nationality to other guys?
No, no, not at all. Actually, I think that was to my advantage because I was like a token to a lot of people. Like when I got to go to Poland, there was one girl that never saw a American person before. So she was like very like I was a sculpture in a museum, like touching me. And that was the main general response because no one ever saw a Brazilian, so they couldn't actually be even prejudiced about it because they didn't knew it. And I think that was a very good to my advantage because I could speak about a lot of issues that they are not related to, because our country is passing through a lot of things, and it was very good to be able to vocalize that to a lot of European people. But no, not once I suffered prejudice, and actually, I just received something good, like a good response or a platform.
Okay, yeah, no, I really agree with you about the part that it's kind of like a plus
Yes.
because you get the chance to expose like a whole continent, sometimes like the fifth biggest country in the world, and most of the people have like no idea besides football, carnival, and Rio de Janeiro, and that's it.
And
Uh,
I'm from Rio de Janeiro, so that makes it easier.
really?
And that makes it
Ah.
easier.
So yeah, but there's the rest of the country, not less important, just a little bit less, if some people may say so. No, I'm joking. Well, yeah, and I think it's really good because you get the chance to kind of teach them people a lot and open their eyes. And I think the biggest, I wouldn't say problem, but the only time that I was quite in an uncomfortable situation because of my nationality during a project was when I had to pull up my passport because people weren't believing that I was Brazilian. So there's
In Poland?
it was in Germany.
Oh, with me.
No,
Oh
no, it
no.
was in
Oh,
another project.
okay.
It was funny because I'm Brazilian,
Yes.
but I was coming from a Portuguese organization and I was working with a Polish organization. So they asked where I was from. I said I was born in Brazil. I live in Portugal, but I'm working in Poland. And it got like this whole mess, and people just say, okay, he's messing
Transnational.
with us. Sorry?
Transnational.
Transnational, yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide. But okay, well, Lucas, thank you very much. We are going to take a quick break right now, and we'll be right back.
Every individual has to learn and practice what they want to achieve perfection of, were the famous thoughts of Socrates. Learning in general can be defined as a long-term process that changes and influences your knowledge, skills, and attitude. Modern European educational terminology divides learning into three categories. It's formal, informal, and non-formal learning, which are all well defined and explained in a video, The Three Ways of Learning. Formal learning is something that takes place in school's environment. The situation is planned and purposed, and that is done through national curriculum and the subject and school syllabuses and the teacher's work plan. For example, a traditional math class where a student is doing their workbook exercises is formal education. It is also assessed and evaluated through exams and placement tests. Informal learning is the opposite. It is something that happens in everyday situations. It is the Saturdays that you hang with your friends, or the evenings that you spend with your parents or family. It is something that is educational and might change your values, but the results are viewable much, much later. Somewhere between those two is non-formal learning. It is something that happens or takes place in different situations and environments. It is purposed and might be planned like formal education, but it is more flexible and available for everyone. And most importantly, it should happen voluntarily. Non-formal education is both social and individual learning. It is something that you can do in extracurricular activities or subjects where you use active and interactive study methods. It's also individual learning, your own idea and aim to educate yourself. For example, learning a new skill, like playing a guitar through YouTube videos. In order for the study process to be more enjoyable and fruitful, we need to combine those two, something that is set by the national curriculum and also more flexible and innovative, like the non-formal learning process. Learning takes place when there is something interesting for the student or pupil. It is something that can influence you, something that brings out emotions and allows yourself to find answers to certain questions that you are looking for, requirements that you want to fulfill. In order for that to happen, you need to have belief in yourself and your self-esteem that you can manage obtaining that value. Formal learning focuses mainly on that particular value, the value of the subject and what you are particularly learning. Non-formal education, on the other hand, focuses on the process, the emotion that it brings out in you, and how you are learning. That's why it is said it's important to use your more creative side. Learning is important because through that we learn new things, skills, and can change our attitude. It is rather pointless if we do it only up to the exams or if we forget about the things next week. It is said that on average a person can think about 800 words a minute, but we can only speak about 120 words per minute. Therefore, it is evident that there is enough free energy and time for a listener to not only pay attention to what is said, but at the same time make connections and think about how to actually implement what is said in the real life. The practical value of learning is something that non-formal education forces. More and more attention is put on non-formal education in young persons' development. Consciously learning to learn is something that can help you map your skills and knowledge, help yourself define as a citizen. Non-formal learning is something that can be achieved to anyone. It is available for all interested parties. There are a vast number of projects for youngsters in local level, both internationally. These are some opportunities that Sigrid will now be introducing more thoroughly.
Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of this great interview. And Lucas, in the last part you were talking about how to be a team leader, and sometimes the participants kind of act like monkeys. And talking about monkeys, you're an anthropology student, right?
Yes.
And would you mind talking to us why you decided to go to anthropology?
Okay, about the monkeys part, I do have some chairs that approach primatology. So I do study very outside of the field, but a lot of monkeys' behavior. So that may help. I decided to go to anthropology because I was in international relations, and since I was a child, I was like, I want to be a scientist. And I got to go to international relations, and I realized that, at least in Portugal, the course was not for scientists, but yes, for diplomats. I didn't want to be a diplomat. And I had an optional chair of social and cultural anthropology with the best teacher of all. And it was amazing chair. I learned a lot about the world, and I could actually see that I could study the human behavior and identity, because my main theme in anthropology is national identity. Um, from these people with a method that's the ethnograph method, or living with the person for 2 years and then writing in the diary. Ah, I am the only one who got the joke, but yes.
Yep.
Uh,
Sorry, I'm still laughing about that
no,
crappy plug that I just did. Sorry.
no, that's fine. That's fine. And the thing was that then I decided to go to anthropology to pursue this dream of trying to make science and trying to make the world a better place.
It's a good message.
It is.
And this decision of changing course was before or after you did your first project?
It was between. And yes, just to advance the question, perhaps, Erasmus did help me to decided to go to anthropology, because I went to my first project in May of 2019, sorry, and I was in the final times of my days in international relations. And when I got to go to Estonia, I was like all the time being asked, like, oh, what do you do? What's your dream? What do you want to be? And, you know, and unconsciously, I always answered, I want to be an anthropologist. I want to do anthropology. And then one day we had to write between the, it was like a camp between the camp, our professionals, and answer a lot of questions in groups. And someone asked me, "Oh, but what's your dream?" And I was anthropology, from the top of my head. Then I realized that anthropology was the best path for me.
Okay. And do you think that the Erasmus projects, they, uh, no one would say that they teach you something, but did they bring something to you that help you in your
In
course?
anthropology,
Yeah.
um, yes and no, because anthropology is a very formal education studies, so no one's going to be teaching me about Malinowski or Levi-Strauss or postmodernism on this kind of things. But at the same time, it gave me experience on in living with another cultures and cultural awareness and everything that comes between this. Because every time that I went out of my zone, that's Portugal, and went to another country, I had the best of interactions and I learned about the countries. I mean, I learned even about Iran in one of these projects, and it's not even European. I learned about, I think, a little bit of every European country. And this was very amazing because when I am studying anthropology and I need an example of something that I'm trying to prove, I remember, oh, I know that because Bulgaria does that, or because Poland does that, or because Germans are afraid to show nationality, you know? Uh, yes. So it helped me a lot by the experience, not so much about the formal education, but that's not the point of Erasmus. So
Yeah, totally.
it was
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's also about like the soft skills, the learning
Yes.
to learn and be independent and improving. And just another question related to this. Excuse me. Since you went to those projects and you start doing this course about anthropology, did your views about the world has like a global culture change? You think that there's more that connect peoples than that that's a hard word.
Differentiate
Differentiate
them.
them? Yes.
You know, that's there's a phrase in anthropology studies that when you look at anthropology, you think that you can study a country. When you study anthropology, you think you can study a street, you know, because everything is so different, so uh, diversified. So I'm gonna say to you that we live in a world. I hate this word. We live
The
in a
Brazilian
world.
problem.
Yes, we live in a world that every country has uniformized their own culture because of the nation state models from the 1800s. And because of that, we are locked down in a world that separates what's our culture from what's not our culture. For example, in Portugal, we actually, okay, so we normalized exclusion because when we think about nation state, we think about me having citizenship and you don't have a citizenship as something natural, you know, because I'm Portuguese, but you're not. And that's by blood, by jus blood, jus sanguinis. That's the Latin word for this. Yes. Uh, and the point is that this differentiation between our own countries shows that we are more than welcome and normalized to exclude people. We are citizenship, and we live in a world, in a democratic nation-state system that normalize exclusion and that normalize we being different from the others. So when you actually go out of your country and you actually experience a lot of other people, you see that they're not that different, you know? Because the nation states, yes, they have selected a few cultures that, I mean, Germany, you speak German, you're probably Catholic or Protestant, and you're afraid of showing nationality right now, but you have a lot of symbols that are related to being German, and you have a lot of symbols that are related to not being German. So when you speak with a German people, you see that they have the homogeneous culture of German, but at the same time, they don't because we are all human beings, and you can see that there's a lot of similarities because we only see this difference between cultures more likely and more alive because we have normalized the exclusion something normal. So Erasmus helps.
Yeah, that's a good summarization because one of the objectives of Erasmus is promoting unity and the feeling of being European.
Yes,
So you agree that they made a good job on doing that?
they did. They did a lot. It was a really good job with the youngest population. I think that perhaps not with the old population, because if you can see in Britain, we have I have an anthropologist that I follow, that's Evans Gillians, and he studies about British context, and he's proving that people are afraid of the Europe, normalized Europe, because they are kind of afraid of losing their own nationality and their own interests. So they see European as an enemy to them. You know, it's not. I mean, as Baltazar says, it's not only that. There's a lot of other issues, but one of the issues that are perceived by this population that's older and maybe poorest, it's that they see Europe as threatened by what is dear to them. So perhaps yes, it does help us. There are youngest people, and there are people from rural areas and urban areas, all the same. But maybe the old people, we don't help that much.
Okay, but at least you planned so you can can get a reward later. So I think that's
Yes.
the idea of the European Union at least. And do you think it's a good thing that they are investing more in creating this unity sentiment, at least in the European Union countries? That it's a good thing that they are trying to make everyone see the similarities and that they are all the same, and it's not like just a union of different countries, but is almost like a well-oiled machine where everyone has its parts.
Yes, I mean, I don't think no one can oppose to that. Yeah, it's really good to feel united. I think that I'm very Erasmus boy, so I think of myself as European, actually, not Portuguese as well. So I think that's very nice to say because we do have a conjoined history and we do have different cultural differences that must be highlighted in each country. But it's very good to know that we are a union uh, above nothing else, you know. So I think it's a very good investment, and it should continue. Erasmus should keep going.
Yeah, please, I want to keep my job, so yeah, keep going. But the thing is, don't you think that this almost creates a chance of people starting to leave behind their own culture and focus more on this global European culture? Let's say it's not that becoming less nationalistic or less traditional, but stopping care more about their culture and more about Unitarian culture, that they would like feel, lose this their culture.
Okay, so that's a very difficult question. And
You're welcome.
no, because the point is we don't know. We just don't know. It's a very hard thing to say because I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, this is that, because we don't know. I know I do read a lot, but I don't read all. But from as long as I know, the social sciences don't know how to answer this yet. It's a very confusing platform. But what I can answer here, perhaps, is that in the 90s, um, we have European anthropological movement that believe in homogenization of the word culture. You know what it means that everyone was becoming Americanized. That was the main reason, main scared, because the American culture was glowing so global that affected everyone. But the thing is that we cannot see this as unilateral. When Brazil imports the culture from North America, he adapts it to his own culture. There's something called I don't know in English, but just in Portuguese, agencialidade. That's I don't know how to speak. It's a
Me neither.
concept. But the thing is that this concept says something like this: that mm, when I get another culture influences me. I'm not passive in the process. So I'm not going to just grab the American culture and live like an American eat burger, you know. I'm going to adapt to the own Portuguese or Brazilian culture that I do live in. So I think that we should not see everything as like an international bad guy and a lot of innocent and hopeless villagers. You know, it doesn't help. It doesn't act this way. And people do have agencialidade and do have a more active role into importing culture. But I don't know how to answer that question before. But that's kind of something I think.
It was a good non-answer, so don't worry about that. We got you. But yeah, and for me, it's a good thing too because even countries that have like a long history of conflict, and you get those youngsters together in a project, they kind of can see that maybe what their parents or grandparents are teaching them about the neighbor or all the things that they read in the history books may not be true, and that the other person is the same that you. They just live in the other side of the border, and maybe they have a different history book than yours.
Yes.
It's good. And also, something I would like to ask you. After you finished your university, do you have any plans of doing something related to Erasmus? Because
Okay.
sorry to interrupt, because
No,
you already did the youth exchange as a participant, youth exchange as a team leader, you did a training course. So, are you planning to do a Erasmus Mundo scholarship or maybe European Solidarity Corp volunteering?
I do not pretend to do Erasmus in university because I already lost a year in international relations and I really want to get a degree as fast as I can. But I do want to use informal education in my ways. I want to be a professor. If God wants me to have whatever I want, I'm going to be a professor, anthropology professor. And I do want to insert the non-formal education in my formal education because I think it's very important. Because you know, in academic studies and universities, you have people who don't are very good with books or who are not very attention to that, and that's not okay. I mean, that's okay. Sorry, that's okay, but that's not okay. That's the university doesn't have how to respond to that. And in the non-formal education, it's a way that we can transmit the same amount of knowledge, maybe in a more informal way. And of course, the books are not forgotten, but we do need to um, catch one thing and catch the other and combine in a more academical type of vision and informal and non-formal education in every course. Even in anthropology, I have one experience that was very fun because in my first class this period, the professor told us, okay, so you're going to go outside and you're going to sit on the chair on a bench in the park and you're going to have your notebook and you're going to tell me what's going on uh, alongside you. And after that, you're going to have to create a theory and try to explain it anthropologically. You see, you have anthropological ways in an informal education way.
So, can you elaborate more in this example?
Yes, so I went out of the class, I sit on the bench, I got my notebook, I saw a lot of people smoking and having fun and not being in class. So what did I do? I wrote about them. And I wrote like something, the university's doors are open, but the people are still in the bench talking and smoking during class. So you analyze what's going on outside, and then you bring it to class and you try to theorize something. You know, it was a fun subject. It
Okay,
was
so it's
not
kind of like
really.
to understand what they are doing, not to tell what they are doing. It's kind of like
Yes,
that. What's
yes,
behind it.
yes. But that
Okay.
was very informal, and that's the thing. And just to finish your question, I do, if everything and God permits me, I want to write a project for Erasmus that's more anthropological. I actually thought about to you about that, and the name of the project was going to be culture in a scientific way approach, and we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of games that are related to anthropology. But I think that I need to graduate first because I'm not prepared yet.
It, it's quite extensive and takes a lot of time to do a project and execute it, and then the other part. So yeah.
Yes.
And just to elaborate a little bit more about this project that you want to do, do you think that this more scientific analysis of the world can fit well in the non-formal education mode of education? Because you're going to deal with people who are from completely different backgrounds than yours, and maybe that aren't even related to science. Do you think there's like a way to manage that?
I hope so. Because, for me, when we are studying science, for a long time in the science history book, people are trying to find the universal truth. And everything that worked here, it could work in Brazil and it could work in Iran. It doesn't work like that anymore. We're not looking for universal truth. We have in social sciences a sense of subjectivity that the own observer or the own analyst have their own opinion and they do present it in the text itself. So the science that we're talking about are concepts and I felt concepts and histories and reads, but we're not going to do that in a project like this because the point is we can use the observation and the methodology to analyze some word events and to have fun doing this. And my objective, if I do this project, is not to the person get out of there being able to quotate the cards, but getting out of there being able to see a journal, a journal news, talking about Trump and can maybe think with their own head like, oh, he's protecting this culture because he thinks that nationality works like this. So it's going to be a lot of fun games that are going to be of observation mainly. They're going to teach something about the environment.
Okay, so for what I got is there's like a big focus on critical thinking and
Yes,
learning how to do it.
and
Yeah, that's great.
observation.
I think that's something that we are missing nowadays. But okay. And about the opposite, do you think that non-formal education system can fit and work well together with the formal education system in universities? Because uh, for the many different conversations that I had, almost every country has, like, to a certain level, some pushback from the formal education organizations, the schools or even the high schools and universities, where some people are not too open up to it and even think that it's going to instead of improve, make things worse for the education of someone. And at least in your experience, do you think that there's a possibility of implementing non-formal education? At least some
Uh,
elements, of course.
yes, there is for sure. The example that I gave, but I want to give attention to a fact that let's look like this. Science, it's a very hard field to touch. Um, you're not a scientist, I'm not a scientist yet. So when we look at an anthropological book that's very big and very conceptual and very theoretical, neither of us may be understanding it fully. The point is that science has a struggle a lot to communicate with society. So it is a very difficult job because the the big guys in science world in the universities, at least in Portugal, they are not willing to try another other ways of approaching. So, in my experience and in my ways of studying, what I realize is that not only formal education and informal education are combined well, like in Finland, for example, it's one of the best or the best school teaching in the world, and they use a lot of non-formal education methods. Not only we should do that, but we need to do that because if we don't do that, we're going to enter an age where people don't believe in science. We have Earth, flat Earth. Yes, we have flat Earth. We have people who don't believe in evolution. We have people who are not going to get vaccines. We have presidents telling people to um, use remedies and medications that are not fully tested. And all of that, it's because people don't know how to communicate with scientists. The scientist world doesn't communicate. For me, it's a logical truth. The evolution exists. I studied it. I saw it. I saw fossils of it. But how can I prove to someone who I cannot even dialogate with? Because how I'm going to speak to him and say, "Oh, yeah, we didn't came for the monkey. The earliest, most ancient person that we have is called Sahelanthropus, and he was found in Kenya. I don't know if it was in Kenya, but we don't have this kind of communication because the person is not going to understand it. and we need to have informal education so that we can make the science available to everyone. It's not because someone doesn't like to read books or have a difficulty of doing this that they should not be able to be scientists.
Oh yeah,
So,
totally agree. That it's kind of like there's a elitism in science where just like this small part of the population gets to know, understand, and have a dialogue about this, and they're like in their top, looking down at everyone. And I don't know if it was Stephen Hawking or which scientist that said that every good theory needs to be every good theorist needs to be able to explain to a 5-year-old their own theory, and if it doesn't make sense, it's not a good explanation. And of course, that's like a good exaggeration, but to a certain level, yeah, I totally agree with you. That's even I have the book of Stephen Hawking here, where they explain difficult concepts, but in a language that everyone is able to,
grasp.
yeah, able to grasp. There's not like full of terminology, unnecessary terminology. And yeah, I really think that non-formal education is a good way to at least to get people's attention to go there.
Yes.
Yeah, but since we're talking about this, for me, one of my biggest problems with Erasmus is the lack of more scientific um, projects, because almost every project is more on the social or art side of education. And do you think that there's like this lack of more concrete and not physical, more concrete science projects because there's not enough people from this area that cares about non-formal education, or because the European Union just don't give too much attention to that? What do you think?
Okay, so I love European Union, okay? So not going to trash it. But the thing is, from all the projects that I went to, all of them were topics that could be approached with a scientific way of saying. For example, the project of identity in Germany, it was a project that was for me about political science. And when I got there, it was more about how my identity feels.
It was more introspective.
It was more introspective. So what I think is that a lot of the I didn't participate in all the projects, so I cannot say about our organizations, but in general, and then the majority that I see, we don't have science being used at all. We have science topics, which shows that European Union does care about social topics and social science topics, not social topics, but social science topics. But when you got there, it's full of common sense and full of how do we see each other and how do we should um, elaborate on ourselves. I never saw a project that we could have and that could explain, for example, uh, any anthropological, sociological, or political science type of methodology or concept. Because, and I do think that it's due to the lack of will of the scientists to do this. I don't think a European Union is going to deny a project that's well done about a scientific project, you know. Because, for example, let's imagine that I did actually. That was very fun. With my girlfriend, I tried to explain to her about national identity. So what did I do? I asked her to grab something that reminded her of her own country, and of course she brought me a flag.
Okay,
And
okay,
then I said
quite
it to
literal.
her. Yes, that's quite literal. And then I said it to her. But why did you bring me a flag? Why does this makes you remember your country? And then she said to me, because it's the flag of my country. It's a symbol of my country. And I said to her, yes, but that's not on your daily life. And never in your daily life you forget that you are Brazilian or you forget that you are Portuguese, because something in the way that we speak reminds us every day that we are Brazilian, that we are Portuguese. So a scientific concept for that is maybe banal nationalism by Billig. He says that we became nationals. Our identity became national because in our way of speaking, we are speaking about national topics. Because, for example, if I said, I don't want more immigrants here, here It's not my house. It's my country. It's banalized the way of how I spoke about it. It's inside of my own terminology to speak about it. So even if we in a project could ask people to describe the national identity and to try to explain what national identity is, just after to realize that the national identity is something that's very more crystallized. It's something that's going to bring out a lot of more knowledge about how they work in society. So that's an example of
Yeah,
how it could be done.
it's a good one. Because for me, usually the, let's say, the dumbest idea is usually like the brightest. Because I was thinking, for example, how would be possible to do a project about where the topic is a natural science, for example, like astronomy, and try to get all those concepts in a non-formal way where you don't need to teach people the mathematics to calculate and things. And for me, is instead of teaching people about the, let's say, how to calculate the speed of the stars and yada yada, you just do an activity where, for example, you get to observe firsthand with a telescope or something the sky, and you give an explanation.
I would love that.
Yeah, or for example, you do a project about I don't know biology, where you go to the zoo. That's
No,
not a good
maybe
example,
no.
but
For example, etology. Let's say that we do a project about etology. Etology is a behavior of animals. We can see videos of monkeys doing whatever they do, and then people write on their paper like, "Oh, I think he meant this," and that's already fun. People trying to recreate movements that a monkey did. You imagine that? Like for example, when the gorilla does like this, a lot of
it's a good
people,
energizer.
yes, and a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, this is aggressive. This is a warning," but that's not aggressive or a warning in the gorilla language, because from what I know, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I know, this means like I want to play, or I'm male and I want to have reproduction. You know, sex.
Uh, I think Disney lied to me because when Tarzan used to do this and scream, he was like to show dominance. So,
Yes,
so one of you are wrong. I don't know which one.
and I perhaps I am wrong. Uh, um, perhaps I'm wrong. But what I'm saying is that we can use this language to make fun, and perhaps we can, I don't know, uh, see pictures of a cat, or go to a city where there's a lot of cats on the street, and maybe we can try to see how they act in real life, and then we know how cats behave, and then when it got to our cities, we can better take care of the cats that are on the street, because it is a big problem, at least in Lisbon, because there are like thousands of cats in my street, and that's very important for you to know how to deal with animals that are around the streets. And this is science, and that I don't know. Tell me, wouldn't you like to do that and study cats in a project? I think it was amazing.
Yeah, about the cats part. I think my favorite activity was, I think was one that you helped come up
Yeah,
with in
I did.
Cyprus.
I did come up
Yeah,
with.
you know the one about going around the streets taking photos of cats and naming them. So
Yes, yes.
I would totally love to do that. But yeah, because for me it's a part where I would say not only the Erasmus project but society is kind of lacking. Because for example, role playing is a really common tool to do in projects. And in Germany, we had to role play has different political views. I did another project where the one in Cyprus, we kind of did role playing as people with certain disabilities,
We tried.
which well, I did. Um, then I had another project where the group we were it was a session of the European Commission where we had come up with the new pillars of Europe, and everyone was playing a different character from their country, societies, and stereotypes. And the thing that I feel that is lacking the most is the person, for example, you're doing a role playing about finding the solution for a certain social problem. And we have what you usually have. We have like the politicians and the common citizens, and we never have like the scientists. Because, for example, they are talking about building a church in the middle of the city. And you have the politicals trying to convince people to get more votes. You have the people telling what was going to be better and worse than them. But it would be nice, for example, to have like I don't know, someone European has an engineer and say that it makes no sense because it's going to make a big bother.
It's true.
And yeah, it's weird to think that at least for the common person, science isn't it is present on their life, but they kind of don't see their effects because you have
They
all
do
the
see their effects, but only the physical ones.
yeah,
You
no,
know?
totally. Because if a politician does something, he comes out on national TV and say, "I did that." And if someone did something, he goes around bragging and put his name on the building that he built. But usually, a scientist that discovered a vaccine and that cured millions and millions of people, you only know that person's name because you went to search for it. And of course, you have like
Perhaps.
yeah, of course, you have like little example of scientists that almost everyone knows about it. But even for example, Charles Darwin, there's some people who have no idea.
Okay,
Uh,
let's do a
that he
social
does.
experiment here. Tell me one social scientist that lives today.
Today.
Yeah, like that's doing some research today.
Can I look behind me?
No.
Scientist, social scientist. Is Margaret Mead alive yet, or
No.
did she die?
Yet?
Yeah, alive yet, or dead yet? Sorry,
She died, unfortunately.
I'm horrible with names, so no. Stan Love is dead. Because everyone that I learned is dead. I don't know if I have like some curse on me that everyone that is dead is dying, but no, I can't recall any.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, that's the thing. Now, if I ask you how many, I don't know, pop stars you know, and you know a lot. Perhaps not you. I'm saying
No, that's a big point.
general. What I'm saying is I went to my girlfriend's house one day, and she like showed me um Instagram persons in Brazil speaking about politics, speaking about even anthropology and a lot of things, and I was like, okay, do they have a degree? No. So they're speaking about science subjects with no previous knowledge because we have such a weird way of thinking about scientists that even the people who speak about science are normally not scientists. You know, we don't have very big scientist names in social sciences, at least. They're very influential in at least in Brazil, because that's my culture, in the Brazilian culture. You know, maybe we have Vivera de Castros, that's very important, but
Yeah, and usually the scientists that you know of now are the ones usually involved in some polemic topics, and these
like
are like
me,
really controversial. like
like Martin.
yeah, because it's of course my problem too, but from the mainstream scientists that I can think of, you have nowadays Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Yes.
and the other one are only like polemic people that I don't even want to bring their name up because
Yes.
it's going to make some problems. So yeah, I don't know why, but hey,
It's
you're
fine.
the guy with the degree, so go on and be
I'm not at a degree yet.
you're going to
Still,
be with 2 degrees, and
perhaps.
go on and be like a rock star scientist. Well, good luck, Lucas. We're gonna take another quick break, and we'll be right back.
The European Solidarity Corps is a European Union initiative which creates opportunities for young people to volunteer or work in projects in their own country or abroad for the benefit of local communities and people around Europe. Young people aged between 18 and 30 are the main target group of the Corps. In particular, young people with fewer opportunities. They can get involved in a broad range of areas such as, for example, integration of migrants, environmental challenges, prevention of natural disasters, education and training, or health and well-being. In order to join, young people need to register on the European Solidarity Corps portal. This allows them to access the following actions: volunteering, traineeships and jobs, and solidarity projects. Volunteering offers young people the opportunity to carry out full-time voluntary service in country or abroad. Volunteering can be individual or in teams. Individual volunteering can last from 2 months to 12 months, and in case of young people with fewer opportunities, it can start from 2 weeks. Volunteering teams are solidarity activities that allow teams of 10 to 40 participants from at least 2 different countries to volunteer together for a period between 2 weeks and 2 months. Both in-country individual volunteering and volunteering teams encourage and facilitate the participation of young people with fewer opportunities. Traineeships and jobs provide young people with the opportunity of a job or traineeship in a wide range of sectors which are engaged in solidarity-related activities. They are set up gradually through partnerships with public bodies, NGOs, and commercial organizations active in these fields. For those young people who are ready to carry out projects by themselves, there are solidarity projects. They are in-country solidarity activities initiated, developed and implemented by young people for a period from 2 to 12 months to make a positive change in their local community. Young people get involved in volunteering, jobs and traineeships through organizations that offer placements. The Corps is open to a wide range of organizations, from governmental bodies and municipalities to non-governmental organizations and private companies. The placements within the Corps projects should promote solidarity, address important societal needs, or provide benefits to the local community. As a general rule, organizations that wish to submit a European Solidarity Corps project must be established in a participating country or a partner country. Subject to specific action requirements, member states of the European Union can fully take part in all actions of the Corps. In addition, some actions are open for participation of other countries and regions. For the updated list of eligible countries, please check the latest version of the European Solidarity Corps Guide. All organizations that wish to take part in volunteering, traineeships and jobs project need to obtain the European Solidarity Corps Quality Label. The Quality Label guarantees access to the application process, but it does not guarantee the funding, which depends on the quality of the submitted grant proposal. There are 3 types of quality label: for volunteering, traineeships and jobs. Under volunteering, there is a supporting and hosting role. The supporting organizations select participants, provide their adequate preparation before departure, and offer support after their return, as well as coordinate the project in general. These organizations also play a key role in reaching out to and involving disadvantaged young people in the Corps activities. The majority of actions under the Corps are implemented and managed by the national agencies in participating countries. In addition, the Education, Audiovisual and Cultural Executive Agency, located in Brussels, implements some actions too. Throughout the year, there are several different opportunities to submit project proposals for different types of actions. Use those opportunities and make the most of the European Solidarity Corps.
Hey everyone, we are back, and this is the last segment, but you know, the last for best. I don't know if it's going to be, but hopefully it's going to. But yeah, Lucas, besides sitting at home doing quarantine, what have you been up to?
I mean, I couldn't do much because I was still at university classes since like Friday, so I couldn't do a lot. But I did study. sorry. Okay, so I did study a lot during this time, and I finished the period last Friday. So I'm not doing anything very relevant right now. What I'm trying to do right now is to improve my Italiano and to try to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I separated a lot of books from Oxford Library and about a lot of countries that I'm interested in because I do want to narrow down my anthropological options. So what I'm doing in the quarantine is to learn Italian and to try to best figure out my plan to what I'm going to do in the master degrees.
And from all languages in the world, why Italian?
Perché italiano Um, I, I mean, since I was a child, and I think you probably know that in Brazil, Italian food are very popular. I think in all entire world,
Yeah,
Italian
it's
food are very
everywhere.
popular. Yes, but in Brazil, my grandmother was a historian professor, and she used to tell me histories about ancient Rome and about the unification of Italy. And I fall in love with Italy back then because the history is so pretty and everything's so magical. But then I had a time that I wanted to learn Japanese because I like anime and stuff.
And that's the only reason.
That's the only reason, yes. But I started dating and I started thinking about my future. And I was like, I'm not going to Japan, probably. So I need to find something that's more realistic to me. And then I figured out I do love Italy. So I do want to focus on that. I want to graduate myself and live in Italy, have a master degrees and have a doctorate degrees. And another thing that did help me was Erasmus. That I met a lot of Italians in Erasmus, and they did help me with the motivation um, for me to parlare italiano.
Okay. But you said the same about Estonia, that you loved Estonia. Why don't you want to learn
I love
Estonia?
a lot of countries, okay?
Come on, you should learn Estonian. It's not that hard.
It is.
Yeah, it's okay. One of the easiest languages I ever heard.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, sure. But yeah, with me, I think was the same thing about Polish. But of course, I didn't have like that is low love about Poland. To be honest, I didn't knew much about it, and then I heard someone speaking and Movia Popusco, and yeah,
Uh,
that's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. But okay. And have you been to Italy during a project?
I haven't been during a project, but I have been before a project. I went to Rome because my family is nice to me. And, after Rome, I went to Cyprus to do an APV. So I do have this kind of correlation with Italian and the project.
Yeah, you can say so. Just yeah, let's say that it is. But do you plan on doing any project in Italy? Because at least for me, I think it's a really good way to know a country by doing a project on it. Because not only you have like that day where you get to go around the city and do tasks and you get to learn more about the country, but usually you get to see the perspective of the people of that country because they're also like a group in the project. So do you have any plans on doing a project in Italy?
See, see, I do. I candidated myself to a project that was going to happen in Verona, I think. I don't remember the city, but it was in northern Italy. Um, well, Miss Corona didn't let me get a chance of getting an answer if I was going or not because the project closed. So, well, when I do have the chance, I pretend to go to Italy in a project. It is a dream of mine. I even an APV, it would be amazing. Um, if I didn't have a girlfriend in Portugal, I would love to spend a year in Italy, volunteering myself to make a better use of society. Not making a better use of society, sorry, but to try to make a good change in whatever part of society that they want to work with.
Okay, it's a good plan. And since you're talking about the Kung Fu or Miss Corona, as you said,
Miss Corona.
yeah, it for sure changed at least for the foreseeable future how the future of traveling is going to be, mainly air travel. And do you think that it's going to have any impact on the Erasmus project in the international ones?
I hope not. Um, I- that's a very hard question because I think that it's going to have a deep effect in everything that can be do online. I see that a lot of projects are switching from their online versions. I was supposed to do a conference, to be volunteer in a conference of anthropology here in Portugal, EASA, but it didn't happen. So now it's going to be online. And I do see a lot of projects from the organization I volunteer in. They're searching for online participants. So for sure, I know that some projects are going to prefer the online way because I think that the world is trying and figuring out that the online world actually helps and actually um, it's a viable tool to work on these projects, and perhaps we're going to see more online projects in the future. But I do hope and I think that after Miss Corona gives bye-bye, we are going to have a lot of projects and not much is going to change besides the option to go online.
Okay, because for me, I'm kind of 50-50 right now, because for me either there's like no projects going to happen because everybody's like either too scared to travel or it's too risky to make any plans, or it's going to be like 30 different projects just in the same day because everyone postpone everything and everyone wants to get the hell out of their place. So I don't know, but you're talking about the interest topic for me, about how Corona forced people to be more digital, I would say. And do you think after everything is gone, this digital aspect of things will still continue being permanent? For example, in universities, the use of multiple online tools, do you think that will continue?
Yes, yes, for sure. In universities, we are getting a lot of more respect for um, online universities because there's a lot of prejudice against people who go to online universities, and that's dying because everyone now is an online
Yes.
university. Um, but I do think that at least in the prejudice area, we're going to be able to better understand how it is an online experience and why one shall, uh, and why one shall choose to participate in online university. Now, I do think that we have EDX and we have Coursera. I don't know. It's online course that gives certificates and a lot of courses, online courses. And we do have a lot of other sites, uh, and they do present a lot of good knowledge with a low price that you can be certified with. And I think that these kinds of certificates are going to be more valuable in the days to come because it's going to show that you can work online. And I do think that there are going to be some things that are going to be made totally online. Some courses perhaps are going to move to the online world. Perhaps some ways of doing tests or some ways of doing exercises are going to be online. So I think it's going to change at least university very significantly.
And do you think this is a good thing? Because for I'm not advocating, because I agree, for me it's a good thing. But you may say that people are starting to become too digital and less physical, and that social distancing is happening not only because of Corona, but there's some people who segregate them at their homes and just cut contact and live in the virtual world. And with nowadays, you don't even need to get out of your house. You can get a job where you work from home, and you get everything delivered. And now we are getting even more digital. So do you think it's a good thing that we are starting to implement things that's going like to stimulate people to be more at home and more sedentary in a certain way?
So you see, my dear friend, I'm an old guy, in my mentality. So
In
for me,
the first minute,
yeah.
20, feeling bad. God, then we talk about how young you are, and now you are very old. Okay.
No, I mean, I do think that I have a old soul. So for me, every change that goes into being more technological, it's not very well received, at least at first. So yes, I do have some prejudice against this kind of change, principally because my profession requires me to be social and to talk to people and to go to communities. So if we live in a world tomorrow where people are very with social distancing, even after the corona is gone, I'm gonna be out of a job, you know. So that's not good. So I don't think that's positive, and I'm going to say something to you, and because you know me, and I do dance on the streets, and I'm very happy on the streets, and I just talk to everyone on the streets. I make conversation with the lady who is on the receipt box in the shopping mall, or the lady who is giving free samples of perfume. I speak with everyone, but when I got to go out these days, I didn't spoke with anyone because I was kind of afraid, and I was social distancing more because of me, because in the city I was, because I was in Quinta do Conde, that's on the south of Portugal. There's not one case there, and I was scared, even though and I wasn't practicing on the other side of the streets of other people. So even if I, a social person, very extrovert person, do feel like that, I do feel that unfortunately we may be walking to a path of segregation and self-segregation. Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand what you said because when I went to the market, it was the same thing. I was walking, and everyone was just making sure that they were going like away from me. Nobody said good morning, good day, how are you? They look at you. You can see like they are kind of like holding their breath, and hopefully it won't last too long. This social uneasing, I think I can say that everyone is kind of like don't really want to be close to people, and that is not something permanent. But then again, a change come from my diversity, so maybe things change for better now. And as you said, really, don't know how I didn't make this connection in my head. How for people who do online universities, it like is nothing different. It's like just the same. And probably they are more well prepared than the people who had like no infrastructure and had to come up with the university had to come up with doing things online. So yeah, it's good, and I think it's really good if the online universities start to be more respected because not everyone has the conditions to go to a university, or even they have like less live in a less privileged area. So I think
Not
it's a really
even
good point.
that, not only even that, because but you do have more options of countries. You know, you can graduate in the United States from Portugal, and that's very fun.
Yeah,
You know.
totally. And then again, you're not you don't need to have like a lot of money to go travel there. You can do learn the
Yes,
things without
like
going.
we have. I'm going to do propaganda here. We do have a university that I really enjoy the message that they're doing. That's American University. The name is University of the People, and it's an online university that's worldwide, and it's a free university. You only pay to do the exams, and that's only like not very expensive compared to the other United States universities. So that kind of initiative, it is happening. So that's very fun to see. We can have more education to everyone. I think that's a really good side of the this virtual explosion of how do we do our work.
Okay. Yeah, I just hope that the people who are graduating now don't become like the Corona graduation that
Oh, we are
people.
going to.
Yeah, because no, it's something I really fear that the people who are graduating now in the future, people are looking on their curriculum and say, oh, they're like not real people who graduated because they cheated or something like that because of Corona. But yeah, and let's stop talking about Corona. Let's talk about the after Corona. Do you have any plans? Countries that you want to visit? Things that you want to do? Projects that you want to go?
I have a project that's postponed. That was going to happen in Germany. I went in January there to do an APV, and I was very excited to the project because you know when you I mean I don't think I've ever done an APV, right?
No.
But yes, that was my second APV. And I got out of the APV smiling so hard because the group is so fun, the the message is so fun, and the activities are so fun that I was very disappointed when not with the project itself, but with Miss Corona for not letting me access it because it was a very fun project. So this is the first thing that I'm going to do when I can, because it is postponed, so it's going to happen someday, perhaps even sooner than I think. I think there's conversations for Erasmus to happen like July or August, right?
It's going to depend on the countries that are participating in hosting.
Well, yeah. So perhaps it's going to happen
Oh,
very soon.
and by the way, would you mind explaining us what APV is?
An APV is
It's Advanced Planned Visit, right?
yes.
Okay, still remember.
APV is more of a predetermined visit to the country and to the facilities of the country. Normally, it's the organizers and one team leader from each country that's going to participate, from each organization that's going to send their volunteers and their youth. But in this, in some other cases, there are one team leader, one participant. And when we go there, the thing that we do is we try to see how is the accommodation, because perhaps it's not very cultural friendly to our people, and maybe the food needs to be a little different. So we go there to make a bureaucratic and more analytical way of how it works to get there, to go there, etc. So when, example, if you go to me to this project, I can guide you from Berlin Airport to the Flugenhagen, or I don't know the name.
Sounds German, sounds correct.
Sounds German.
It is.
So that's something that we do for preparation, but we also review the project. Every day of the project is reviewed with everyone agreeing with every day. We see the first day, we see the second day, we combine how it's going to be the intercultural nights, we combine how it's going to be the breaks, we combine what we're going to have on the breaks. I actually suggest to have cookies and coffee. Because actually, yeah, in the last project that we went for Germany, there were not food and the coffee breaks. Remember?
I don't know. I just know that I'm always complaining that I
Yeah.
need more coffee. So
Yeah. So every Portuguese complains about that. So I do that in advance. So we do that, and we also create projects. I remember that me and the organizer have like a conjunct idea because the project was about recyclation, and we created a name of an activity that I think is genius. And it's like what your grandmother can do that you can't. It's like a tricot and like getting garbage and creating.
my grandma
art.
can have kids. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, that
You're
that
going
I
to
can
teach me
fix.
how to.
That I can fix. But not that's something to fix, gender roles and everything else. Is everything okay? Just making sure. But okay. But the thing is that I do want to be able to accomplish this project and to participate in this. And after the corona is gone, I do pretend to participate in more projects and try to do more for our community. I tried to enter in a volunteer work here. It couldn't because corona happened. So yes, that's my future plan.
Okay, good. And do you have any tips for balancing out your university with doing projects? Or you're just the crazy type of person that goes when you can and then you study like some maniac?
I am a very systematic person. I do when I enter the classroom the first day, I make charts and everything else of what I'm supposed to do throughout the year and what I'm going to read throughout the year. So do I have a better phrase? What I do recommend to people is that they be organized and that they think about going to the project in the first week of the university, not on the last. you know? When you are in the first week of the university and someone calls you to a project, I think that you should accept it. But if someone calls in the middle of the period, maybe you shouldn't, because if you do, it's going to unregulate how you're doing. So I do think that you should plan in advance, and you should have organized charts, and you should be able to go and tell the professors and have a conversation with them and get all the materials that you need. Because when I got to go to Cyprus, I spoke with my professor, and she gave me a lot of material to read. She gave me a very big portfolio and that I could read and that I could do the exercises and that I could do everything. So I think it's very good to maintain a conversation with a teacher as well.
Okay, so be organized, study hard, and know what you need to do.
Yes.
Good. For the student catch. Okay. We're coming to the end, and there's like a question that I'd like to ask to everyone. And we kind of touched about this in the previous part. But for you, what do you think that should change in the Erasmus program?
Okay. I think we already talked about that a lot. The only complaint that I do have is the more scientific projects that are missing. That's my biggest complaint. I can't complain more about anything. It's a very good opportunity for us, and it's an amazing way of spending our youth, and it's an amazing way of learning how to spend the rest of our lives. But I do think that we should have more science in society, and Erasmus should invest in getting people from the formal education to go to informal education as well.
Okay, well, I'll speak to some people to see if I can push some papers, make sure that in the next edition we got that. Okay, Lucas, just want to ask now some quick questions. And what's been like the favorite thing that you do in a project?
I think the favorite thing normally is the team leader meetings because they're very varied and it's very fun to participate in one. In Spain, we used to drink wine for an hour and then talk about every participant and try to make a better experience for everyone. So it's very fun.
Okay, I think I already know the answer now, but do you prefer being a participant or a team leader?
I do prefer to be a team leader. I like responsibility.
After the project is finished, not during it.
Yeah, I like doing it. I just
Okay, so just to have make you think a little bit, what if you had to choose just one country to be your favorite and that your one true love, which one would it be?
I mean from to Erasmus?
No,
Or
everything in
to...
general. Like if you had to live in a country, which one would it be?
Oh, it's Italy for sure. Yes, for sure.
For sure. So if you had to choose just one for all your loves, it
From
would
all
be.
my love, it's Italy because Estonia doesn't speak Italian.
Oh, so it's just like a language thing.
No, it's
Okay, so
not.
what's your favorite language?
Italy? Italiano. Yeah.
Italiano. Okay, well, Lucas, thank you very much. Good
Thank
luck
you.
with your university and your monkeys. And do you have something that you would like to plug or recommend?
I do recommend that everyone that sees this video, if you see it until here, congratulations. But try to talk to people to go to these projects because sometimes we go to a project and there's like every participant already have gone to the project like 80 times because they're not new people that are being engaged to go. So perhaps it's very good for you to communicate with other people and bring new people to these projects, which is very important.
Okay, yep, and I totally agree because if there's something that every episode we talk about is how there's not enough people wanting to go, and I'll never figure out why. But yeah, thanks again, Lucas, and goodbye. Bye.